This is one of the big stories we were tracking for you yesterday. President Cyril Ramaphosa has sent his condolences to the families affected by that horror crash that took place in Merafong yesterday morning. 12 school pupils and their driver were killed after a bakkie crashed into the back of their private scholar transport vehicle. The vehicle then overturned and burst into flames with some of the children trapped inside. Now, the families will now undergo DNA testing to identify their children.
President Ramaphosa offers his condolences to the families, friends, fellow learners and educators of the deceased children. The President also wishes a speedy and full recovery to 7 learners who suffered injuries in the incident that involved a scholar transport vehicle.
Now, Newzroom Afrika's Chiloane is tracking this story for us and joins us now live. Where do we begin, Zola, as we recount the horror of what happened to these children, their driver, just yesterday?
Well, Michelle, what I can tell you is that there's been a lot of support coming from officials, for the affected families, including the teachers and the schools. You'd understand that earlier on we were at Rockland Primary School, where Merafong city officials pay their visit so that they can see how they can be of support to the institution, and later on went to Blyfo. Now we are just outside a home that has lost 4 children, the youngest being 7 years old and the oldest being 12 years old. We do understand that they are not in a position right now to be speaking to the media, and that is quite understandable considering the fact that this has been, something, traumatic for the family. We do understand that MEC of Education in Gauteng, Matome Chiloane, is on his way to visit the affected families. But let's bring in Gauteng Education Spokesperson Steve Mabona. Steve, thank you very much for your time. If you could just tell us about the purpose of the MEC's visit today.
No, thanks very much. You'll remember that yesterday we could not visit the families, just to extend our condolences and just to understand on probably assistance that they will need and how we're going to be working together to, conduct memorial services and funerals and all that. So he will normally do that in person, come meet the families and extend his condolences, So yesterday it was somber, it was very traumatic. I mean, the almost families, they went to the scene and it was a bad, very bad scene, So we felt that yesterday, let's give them space. That's why we decided to say, let's just go to the hospital and see the young one that was transferred yesterday from Carltonville to Bara. And today come here.
Now, tell us about the young one that was transferred to Bara. Is he recovering well? What's the status? What's the condition that he's in?
Well, we really need to say that he was not in a good state yesterday. That's why a decision was taken that by the medical practitioners to say they need to transfer the child, need more specialists that deal with such incidences, because this is the one that they escaped the car while it was already on fire. And that affected the child dearly. So when we checked last night, they had started with the process. So we'll check probably today, on how the child is doing. But they did indicate that they will stabilize the child.
Now, just earlier on today, we were outside Rockland Primary School and we saw transports that, carry children, and some of them are overloaded, if not most of them. Is there some sort of intervention or conversations that will be held between the relevant stakeholders about the risks of, that, children are exposed to? I mean, if a vehicle is meant to carry 14 children and then it carries 21, what happens? What's going to happen moving forward?
Yeah, without going into the purview that is not us, like the public transport and the traffic, but there are regulations which are adhered to in terms of your overloading. That the child, in terms of the age, 2 might be considered as 1, all those But then they will know when they are in a roadblock, when they check and count. There are regulations that they will normally use. So that's what we were telling reporters yesterday, to say, don't look at the number and want to conclude that this is an overload. You must go and check the ages of the children. Then you will determine whether it was an overload or not. But that's not our space. We know that there are scholar transport associations who manages the private scholar transport sphere. We will normally make our inroads just to meet with them, emphasize on the safety, but also link them with the relevant department to transport. They will then enforce. Law enforcement must enforce. Then for our interest will be, how do you work, make sure that our children are safe. We've got a school safety program in the department. They will normally reach out to the associations to say, it's your space, but these are the things that you need to do at all times. Let's manage, make sure that our children are safe at all times. So we'll continue to reach out and make sure that, the transportation, this roadworthiness, they take all precautionary measures to make sure that our children are safe at all times.
Thank you very much for your time, Steve Mabona. Well, Michelle, we will await the MEC's visit, as we understand that he might be here any time from now. And this is to essentially find out how can they assist the affected families. I mean, bearing one child alone is not easy. Now, you can imagine for this family that has to bury 4 of their children, the youngest being 7 years old and the oldest being 12 years old. You would understand that earlier on we mentioned that Merafong municipality has mentioned that some stakeholders have come to the party as well in terms of, arranging burials for all the children that perished during the incident. Tomorrow, in the morning at Gogosi Mulatlegi Hall, families will be expected to gather there for, DNA proceedings to start happening. So for now, that's all we have. We'll return later as soon as the MEC arrives. Back to you in studio.